All right, in this video, I'm talking about Airbnb and is it really gonna crash the real estate market? I'm a mortgage broker with over 20 years of experience helping people navigate the murky waters of the real estate market. And on this channel, I share the tips and tricks that I see on a daily basis and share them with you so that you can have a better experience while buying a house or refinancing an existing property. So there is a ton of content on YouTube, all sorts of social channels where they're basically, Airbnb is everybody's favorite enemy in terms of real estate clickbait. There's a whole bunch of stuff. Meet Kevin, for instance, talks about them all the time. Recently, he's actually one of the reasons why I'm doing this video, because him, along with a bunch of other YouTube influencers, like to pick on Airbnb and talk about how it's potentially going to crash the real estate market. Now, I feel like when you look at the data and you look at the potential for, what if Airbnb just, all of a sudden didn't exist and all of these Airbnb hosts, people that own properties that they're renting out on Airbnb, well, what would actually happen if they entered the real estate market? Basically, i.e. list their homes for sale, okay? Is that gonna crash the market? Let's talk about it. Now, one more thing, we put together this awesome down payment assistance guide. It's free. Go ahead and click that link to download it. It's an awesome resource to help you along through the process. So Airbnb kind of had like their golden era back in 2015 in terms of the supply and demand of hosts. That's basically their product. And the amount of supply at that time was very low. And there was a high demand for that product, properties to, rent out short term. And so because of that, Airbnb blew up. They had their golden years. And then in 2020, they really blew up because what happened in COVID, everybody started hiding under their table and renting properties all over the place and basically doing stuff that we hadn't done before, which included a lot of short-term rentals. Now, peer-to-peer businesses can be really profitable when there is a low supply of hosts and a high amount of demand. So what's the problem that Airbnb is facing? Well, just like any business, they need to raise revenues. Well, in order to raise revenues, you need more rentals. And the more supply of rentals that you have, the lower the rental rates become. And the lower the rental rates become, the lower the quality of those rentals become. And at a certain point, when the quality gets too low, then you and I, we just decide to go stay in a hotel instead of renting somebody's short-term rental. Now, part of this whole problem and how it actually impacts the real estate market is when you're a landlord, when you have a rental property, your rent, when it's compressed, like squeezed, the lower the rent gets, the lower your return on investment is. Add in that less people are using the service because we're like kind of in a recession, or maybe we're heading into one or whatever, but there's less consumers spending money right now. So you have less people renting the supply of properties, even though there's a massive supply of these properties. So all of this supply is trying to compete for a lesser amount of renters. So they got to lower the price in order to create that demand. Well, the lower the price gets, the lower your cash flow as a landlord gets. And at a certain point, if you're on the edge of cash flow, or maybe you're not even cash flowing at all, meaning making money, at a certain point, you got to make a business decision, right? And that decision at a certain point is going to be to sell that property instead of hosting it as a short-term rental. Now, not everybody's going to do that. Maybe in certain markets, these are going to get converted into long-term rentals. But the whole thing on the internet, on YouTube, on Meet Kevin, on all these channels where everybody's talking about how YouTube's gonna sink the market, that's what they're talking about basically, is that all these Airbnb hosts, they're getting their ass handed to them basically, and there's speculation that a lot of them are going to sell. Well, let's talk about exactly what that would really look like. Now, currently, Airbnb has over 1 million properties listed on their website being hosted. Now, almost half of those are one bedroom, like condos, studios, little cottages, stuff like that. And when you get into the real world of real estate, for the most part, people are looking for single family residence. That's the majority of the transactions that are taking place. So right out of the gate, half of the properties that are potentially going to get dumped onto the market, those are traditionally rental properties or first-time home buyer properties, which there is so much pent-up demand in that market. Even if they did dump 500,000 one-bedroom condos onto the market across the United States, those are things that are going to get mopped up so quick it won't even make a ripple in the real estate market. Now that's assuming also that all these hosts, they sell at the same time. Let's be real here, that's not gonna happen. Like, what are they all gonna like join a Facebook group and have a coordinated effort on like, all right, on this date at this time, we're all gonna list it. No, it doesn't work like that. It's gonna be staggered out over a period of time. So even if they did all come and show up at the party at the same time, they're not gonna make a big ripple because there is such a huge lack of supply in the US housing market. There's such demand, even though rates are on the moon right now. Why? Because there's just too many damn people. There's too many of us, and there's not enough places for people to live. So when properties become available, even though rates are high, maybe even though these properties aren't the most ideal property for those people, they're buying it because there's not much available, and you gotta get in where you can. So like a good example, I'm in Sacramento, California, and right now there's 528 listings in the whole Sacramento area on Airbnb, half of which are like one-bedroom studios or whatever. So let's focus on the single family market, because that's really what everybody's all up in the air that the sky's gonna fall about. So you're talking like maybe 250 houses. Well, there's barely 1,000 houses, it's like 1,100 listed on the MLS right now that are active. So you're not gonna even come in with much activity. It's not like you're gonna all of a sudden there's 10 times the amount of inventory. And we have huge pent-up demand. Over 1/3 of properties are receiving multiple offers and are going over ask. That's not a market where you gotta be worried about, well, what if we have this additional supply come in? Everybody's like, bring it, we welcome the supply. If you look at the crash, there were 9,000 active listings roughly in Sacramento during those times, like 2008, 2009 timeframe. Right now, there's roughly 1,000, right? So you don't even have it's less than an eighth of the inventory that we had at that time. So even if you had all that additional inventory, we're still eons away of what it would look like in a real estate crash or a bubble or whatever everybody wants to paint a picture with as far as Airbnb impacting the real estate market. So are Airbnb liquidations gonna crash the market? No, not likely. It would take a crazy circumstance for that actually to happen. What's more likely is you and I are gonna continue to fall for the clickbait on these videos, and we'll find out, you know, some anecdotal information about Airbnb, but guys, the market's not gonna crash because of that. And in fact, the real estate market is so healthy. You gotta check out the other video that I did about the US housing market, about is there a bubble, which no, there's not. The data all points towards prices are going up because there's a severe lack of supply, and we keep having babies, we keep household formations, we keep immigrating. There's just more and more of us, and there's not enough homes. I hope you found value out of this video. If you did, do me a huge favor, tap that like button. Make sure to give me a subscribe so you get more content like this, and I'll see you on the next video.